We've got almost 50 people in the room, so we'll go ahead and get this party started. Somebody asked about snow. We've got a little bit of snow falling right now, and it covers the grass. I'm guessing an inch, maybe two. I had the snow blower out earlier this week, but beyond that, uh, not that bad. It's not that bad just yet. Daniel Kester, don't know if Heather can join us today. She does work a lot of Sundays. I hate to bug her. I'm sure if she can be here, she will. She'll do what she can. Belio asks if Bondo was the singer from U2. It's like Curly and Curly Joe. Bondo was the other singer from U2. DeFin 007 check in. Roadhouse 19 near Emmett. And I've mentioned before, I had a very good burger at that place. I drove my Viper out there last fall. Or no, I guess it must have been earlier than that. But yeah, there you go. Wade Pittenger's in the house. Welcome to the live stream. Carl's Corner. Hello, Steve. No music RC last. Checking from Northern Nevada would be Richard Terhune 3450. And M. Kolba greets from Nippy, Milwaukee. My good friend JP's in Milwaukee, I believe, for some kind of beer and cheese festival, which I just assume Milwaukee was a wall-to-wall beer and cheese festival 365 days a year, isn't it? Pissed off handicap guy says it's cold in the UP. Of course it is. This time of year, and I believe a lot of places in the UP are on pace to have record snowfall. They're way ahead of stuff. So, Hoff P. Bass, or Bass, I'm guessing, experiment, I guess, in the test subject. No, I'm going to let you know right now. You can't tell, but I've got a new computer. So, my old monitor was about yay big. This monitor is about yay big. And so, I'm using the same camera, the same microphone. But underneath this desk, right there, I have a new computer. And the new computer is light years ahead of the one I had before. So I had to reload all my programs onto it, which you go, well, Steve, YouTube is not that difficult. No, but the program that runs this microphone is its own thing. And so I reloaded that. When I reloaded it, it added a bunch of stuff I don't remember seeing before. So I don't know if the program's been updated or if I just have a bad memory, but it appears to be working now. And I think, remember a couple of weeks ago, I had a problem where I wasn't sure if I was on the right microphone. I think I solved it where that will never happen again. But now that I've said that, I've jinxed myself. So Godwin James checking from Lompoc. I hope I said that correctly. MH08, 283 Kelvin, and mostly sunny in Denver. Mr. Mamor is checking from Jackson, Michigan, formerly the home of the world's largest walled prison. I don't believe it holds that distinction anymore because I don't think they're using it anymore. At least not for a prison, right? I could be wrong. Dan Boyd, I don't think it's my first Windows 11, but I think it's my first. Well, I don't know. But the main thing is, instead of gigabytes, it's got terabytes of stuff, So, Hoff P bass says that is in fact a P bass, as in Fender Precision bass guitar. You must know who Davey 504 is, and if you say you don't, you have permission to leave this stream and go look him up. Bass player famously on YouTube. Good morning, Steve from Melbourne, Australia. This is Duncan Campbell. How's the weather there? It is 64F here. My little weather bug down in the corner is not showing a number, but I think, hang on, I can get it up my phone. Hang on. 20 degrees, 20 Fahrenheit. Yeah, pissed off handicap guy says 145 inches of snow in Calumet. 145. That is 12 feet 1 inch. Doing the math quickly there. Doug Jones, a sign of getting older, you get bigger screens. It's also a sign of having more money. No, actually, it's kind of funny. You have to upgrade. You always have to upgrade. So if it doesn't matter if it's 1 inch bigger, but to get the same size screen wouldn't feel like an upgrade. Okay, now I know the computer down there is 1,000 times faster, but Belio, has AG1 tried to sponsor your videos? I don't know who AG1 is. Isaac Bob York is checking from Sweden, where it is 35F or 2 Celsius. It is warmer in Sweden than it is here in Michigan. Oh, boy. Believe in yourself, says Davey 504, is entertaining. Yes. And here's the thing. He appears to me to be a very good bass player, But I also understand that there's a difference between sitting in an empty room and playing bass and showing off. There's a difference from that going to being in a band that tours and does shows every single night and can play with a band. For all I know, the guy can't get on stage. I don't know, but what he does is extremely entertaining. Davey 504. So check it out. Hey, Duncan Campbell, time check. It is 5 a.m. where he is at. 858 Bill, how'd you make the selfie stick invisible on the walk in the woods? I did a walk in the woods, the haunted forest, on my backup channel. If you haven't seen it, you can go check that out. And I bought a new camera. It's called an Insta 360, and it comes with a selfie stick that will render the selfie stick invisible. So you can hold the camera away from yourself, and if you pan the camera by you, depending on what you do with your hands, you can't tell that the person's holding anything. It's really cool. And the way it does that is the Insta 360s has got two lenses, one on this side and one on this side. And they each basically are fisheye, and they overlap at the bottom. And it uses some kind of proprietary software to stitch that together, but it removes the selfie stick. It is really cool. It was right there last week. I was going to hold it up to show it, but I now it's over there. These things wander around on me. So the creativist says some random stranger just snowblowed my driveway, took off before I could thank, and gotta love Michigan. That's cool. You know, a couple of years ago, I had a guy who had a tractor, an ATV with a little plow on it, lived across the street from me. And I would do my own driveway, but if he got it before me, he would do mine too. He just enjoyed doing it. Godwin James says it's pronounced Lompoc. Lompoc. Why would they do that? I'm just joking. It doesn't matter what it is. You can always get somebody who'll say, no, it's pronounced Smith. I don't see S-M-I or T-H in there. Doesn't matter. It's how you pronounce it. Quentin, it's 28 F or -2 Celsius in Anchorage up in Alaska. Of course, Anchorage is southern Alaska, right? Rudy, is that L908? Are you getting with AI yet? Do you think it might advance faster than what you think and maybe leave you behind? No, I'm studying it from a distance. I think it's the safest thing to do. I don't think you need to use it right now to keep on top of it. My concern is I've seen so many people getting in trouble with it, and it has its limitations, and I think the limitations are still so severe that I'm going to wait a little while. Carl's Corner, have you noticed how many more YouTubers are promoting Factor? They're just trying to reach everyone. Generally speaking, you'll see a Factor ad on my channel about once every other month. And I do I had one today. I had one about an hour ago, and I'm not being paid to say that right now, but I do not promote products that I've not tried and enjoyed. I've had several companies pitch me things that I didn't enjoy, and I'm like, I can't pitch something I don't enjoy. And I still use my Hydro, my rowing machine. I think I broke 100 sessions on that a couple days ago, and I'm still sleeping on a Brooklyn bedding mattress. Love that thing, and obviously I'm sleeping on it every single night, so I wouldn't be doing that. Belio, the Insta 360 is amazing. Lots of people are using it, and it's eerie how it works. It is remarkable what you can do with it. I barely have scratched the surface. I've shot like 4 videos with it. Every single time I use it, I'm like, oh, I should try this. And it does so many cool things. And I'll admit that if you watch the walk of me through the woods, as I'm walking out, I say, I like the fact that I can do this. And I did something on camera that I was talking to myself basically, but when I edited the video, I got the camera to do a complete 360 vertically, which was really freaky. And a couple people told me it made them seasick, but you have to check it out. And again, when I did it, I'm like, that's cool. I'm going to leave it that way. But Davy Mellis, greetings from Belgium. SZG65. When I was young, it seemed that life was so wonderful. I still think it is. Devin Ruckus, what other channels or podcasts do you watch regularly? I like watching Rick Beato. I like watching Davey 504. I like Agadmator, who's a chess guy. I like Anna Kramling, who's a chess girl. a chess woman. Let me think. There's a few others. Pilot debrief with Hoover. And if I think of some more, I'll let you know. But oh, and of course, Vin Wiki, Ed Bolian, and I had a video of mine on Ed Bolian's channel, Vin Wiki, on Friday, and it's me talking about my brother and my '69 Dodge Charger. So earlier, somebody made a crack about Bondo, and if you don't know, when I was telling the story about my car that I bought in high school for $300, we put about a gallon of Bondo into it. But that's what you did back then because the car was worth $300. So you wouldn't do that today with a '69 Dodge Charger you're trying to restore. But on a $300 car back then, it looked pretty good for a couple summers. So there you go. Mark Miller, I did not watch the Buffalo Bills game. Did not watch it. There seems to be a lot of controversy lately with the NFL, though. With instant replay and the cameras they've got, you think they'd be able to get most calls right. But I've seen some that even I'm like, with the cameras, don't they see what we're seeing? I don't know. Wade Pittenger says Utqiagvik, Alaska is pretty cold and hard to pronounce, and even harder to remember how to spell. Laura Nakata 12. Did you know that Insta360 actually has done some partnerships with a few creators? I've seen a few, yes. But the ones I've seen are mainly people who do videos about videos, which I don't do. And I'm not going to be using Insta360 on my main channel, but I'm going to be using it on my backup channel, probably for car videos. It's going to make recording videos in my car when I'm driving much, much easier. MH08 says in Minnesota, we called them Bondo mobiles. We called them Bondo buggies, but same thing. Lewis Browning, how is Clifford and can you yo-yo in the dark? Yes, the yo-yo is downstairs at my house, though. So I'm not going to break it out today. Clifford is still in my Jeep. Went to the post office on Friday, got a bunch of stuff in the mail. Thank you, Lewis. And I was carrying in so much stuff, I left a few things in the Jeep. I think it's still there. KC8 BDR, Waterford, Michigan, checking in. Utqiagvik, says Quentin. That's one of those words, you just say it fast and hope people don't get too upset. Jacob Porto, 8906. Who's your favorite new musician? I'd have to look. I buy a lot of music and it's on my phone or on my various devices. I'm trying to think of anybody. Stuff I've discovered that's 5 years old doesn't quite count. Laura Nakata says the screen name is exact, but just call me Laura, please. Comment enough and I'll call you Laura, I promise. Arts 4014 got the books. Thanks. You're welcome. Fatima Butterpants says, I've seen the drones that follow you and film you as you hike on some hiking vids. Yes, I've got a drone that does that too. The tricky part is that where I was walking, there were a few times I had to duck underneath things, and I wouldn't want the drone to have to duck in case it missed it. So, Bill Thomas, hello from the North San Francisco Bay Area. Rocks in, stay warm, guys. We try. Ann Pette, hello from Heartland, Michigan. Beautiful little town, not far from 23 and 59. About 10 miles, 15 miles west of my favorite restaurant on the planet, the Highland House. And the little downtown area has got a little road that runs off called Maple Road. And my brother Dave lived there for a few years in a house on Maple Road. And if you drive by it, the garage he built with his own hands and the porch he also built, including the 2 columns that are on it. I drove by it about a year ago. It's still there. It looks beautiful. I've always liked Heartland, Michigan. It's so close to the freeways and yet so far back seemingly in time. Ben Leach, what about watching the IJ channel? Yes, I do watch the Institute for Justice's channel also. In fact, I've been on it. But when people go, Steve, do you know any celebrities? I'm like, no. They go, what about Jay Leno? I'm like, oh, I forget he's a celebrity. Aaron Coakley, I saw something when I logged on about Lehto's Wildlife Sanctuary. I'm curious, what does the lawyer dog think of the squirrel invasion? I do have squirrels that seemingly are multiplying right now. More and more they're moving onto my property. I think it's all the walnut trees I've got. But I don't have a lawyer dog right now, but I think the coyotes and the foxes will take care of the squirrels if they don't take care of themselves. There's a discussion right now going on about cyber stalking. I have no idea what that's all about, so I'm going to move on. Belio says that WCU Fields, the bank dick, he lived in Lompoc and pronounced it Lompoc. I'm sure I've heard it said as Lompoc, but I always do like to go off the pronunciation of the people who live there. The natives should know. AMZ, should I make a chocolate bourbon pecan pie or pecan pie or a ding dong cake? Let's go with the ding dong cake because it's funnier. I won't get criticized for my pronunciation. Stuff writer, I'll be going to the SCOTUS to hear oral arguments from the gallery. Have you been there? Any suggestions? One, are you sure you can get in? Because I don't, I seem to recall at least they used to just have a line. You stood in line and you got in. And if you didn't get there in time, you didn't get in. But my suggestions, no, just enjoy it. I've seen oral arguments at state Supreme Courts in Michigan and California in person. And it's always fun to watch. At least it is for me, but I'm an attorney, so. Oh, Miko Angel QW, how's y'all doing? I think it's the way they say it down south. Bob Kerflugen, good afternoon, everyone. NCIS fan checking in from Baton Rouge, high of 46, low of 29. I talked to a friend in the Carolinas who said it was getting down to freezings, and I'm like, what? What? And Pette, the Highland House is awesome. And you've seen that house. Yeah, the house on the north side of the road. I used to know the address. I don't remember it now. But as you drive from the main north-south street and you turn right down Maple, I'm guessing it's the fourth or fifth house on the left-hand side, the north side of the road. And there'll be a little house with a little garage set further back. The little garage was not painted. At one point, it was stained. And my brother put that garage together with screws. So theoretically, you could dismantle it if you wanted to. It was one of these things where he put like 10 times the work necessary into it just because he could. So it just jumped. I'm going to miss a bunch of people, for which I apologize. Vinny Sluga says he saw a ghost near his bedroom window. Ground floor, or are you up a story? Jay Klein, what's the experiment? I have a new computer and a new monitor. And because of that, the microphone is running through a slightly different system. And I'm always paranoid when I move from one computer to the next that something's not going to work right. So far, everything has worked, knock on wood, but we'll see. Belio, Ding Dong. Remember they were called King Ding Dong and then King Dawn? They had a bunch of different, and I think there's some knockoffs too, using names that sounded familiar or similar. Sarah KC, hello, Stephen. Everyone, freezing cold in Michigan. Yes, it is. Oh. Matt, what's the difference between a Bismarck and a Punchki? I have no idea. I know it's Punchki Day, right? That's a big thing in the Polish communities. We've got a few of them here in Michigan. And I think a Punchki, isn't it? It's basically a filled donut. I'm not an expert, so don't get angry. Encode Dog. My name is Elmer J. Fudd. I own a mansion and a yacht. Elmer J. Fudd, millionaire. I own a mansion and a yacht. Or it's 4014. If you considered improving your wilderness area, you can make it attract a real diversity and greater quantity of critters, birds, and butterflies. I'm a firm believer that nature knows how to take care of itself to some extent. So when a tree falls down across a trail of mine, I chop it up, but I leave it there. I don't haul it away. I don't burn it. And I've got a wide diversity of stuff on my property. That little area I shot that film in on Friday. I shot it Friday morning and I posted it Friday evening. There's a little creek there, and that place is overrun with wildlife. But I've got plenty of variety on my property, and like I've mentioned, all the animals I've got that appear to be in some kind of balance with each other. So I tend to leave it as it is. Brad Ziegler, ever consider getting into aviation? No, but I've got the watch for it. I like Breitlings. But I've got a brother who's a pilot. Very good friend of mine's a pilot. Also owns an airplane, Piper Lance, and I've flown a few times in a small plane. Just not enough interest to get into it, but I'm fascinated by it, and so there you go. Sarah KC says the experiment so far so good. Bill Thomas, the sound is good. So I've mentioned before, there's one microphone here. There's a microphone built into the camera. And occasionally it would accidentally switch to that camera when I wanted to use this microphone. Switch that microphone. And so today, when I loaded the program for this for the first time, it pulled up both microphones, which I didn't have them attached last time. And it says, which one would you like this program to use? I said, oh, use this one and mute that one. And said, would you like us to remember that for the future? I'm like, yes, I would. Oh. Fatting Butter Pants, do you have a fence around your property? No. But I've got obstacles and barriers, trust me. Lion Zookeeper, I just checked my trail camera this morning. I love watching a deer behind my house. Yeah, I love watching, I'll glance at the various cameras about what wandered by my cameras in the middle of the night. And it's always a thing. Today's color is green. Did anybody have green? Anybody? Roxanne, what new computer did you get? Well, there's a store that I know of that all my friends rave about, and I like them too. And so we went there, and I got something that's got an Intel Core i9 processor with some kind of NVIDIA card, and like I said, terabytes of drives and so on. So it'll get the job done. Oh. Isaac Bob York, tree law. Yeah, and then someday when trees become sentient, they'll have their own protections too. Fatting Butter Pants, it's much cheaper to have friends with planes and or boats. I agree with you 100%. I've been on boats that are owned by friends of mine, and boy, they're fun. I've had a friend of mine go, do you want to buy one? I'm like, nope. 1 week on yours, I'm done. NVIDIA 5060, is that a good one or no? It isn't NVIDIA. Darkwood, you can play games on that. That's what the guy told me. And I said, well, I don't play games, but I do a ton of video editing. And he said, oh, yeah, this will do that too. The little guy, what do you think about Rob Wolchek retiring? I live in Oshkosh. I love watching him. He does good work. Yeah, Rob Wolchek is one of these guys who goes out with a camera and he'll get right in some bad guy's face. Go, hey, I understand you stole some money from a little old lady. What do you have to say about that? And don't get me wrong. I mean, I have occasionally gotten in somebody's face, like during a deposition or cross-examination. But man, on the street, on somebody's front porch, for instance, woo. Oh, the Creativist, the 5060 is a good card. What about the 5080? NCIS, it's also great to have cops and lawyers as friends. Mark Doherty, trees are already sentient. We just don't know their language. True. The Creativist likes the 5070, great for video editing. I teach DaVinci Resolve. What about the 5080? Yes, the Hall of Shame. Rob Wolchek's Hall of Shame. John Zablek. It's just funny. He busted a guy who was down at the Eastern Market, which is a big farmer's market in Detroit. And the guy was selling all of this organic, fresh vegetables. And somebody narked him out and said, "Hey, he's just buying his stuff at another place and bringing it here and saying it's organic." So if you walked up and asked the guy, he's like, "No, no, I've got so many acres. I grow my own stuff." Rob Wolchek went out there and examined the guy's property, and he didn't have anything. And then followed him as he went and bought his groceries and brought him to the Eastern Market. Oh, the creative says the 5080 is the third best card available. Okay, so what's better and how much more expensive is to go up from that? Lord V8D3R, the 50, 80, and 90 are for when you own stock in DTE or Consumers Energy. Oh boy. Oh. NCIS fan, have you heard of the tree that owns itself? I've heard of governments giving trees specific rights. And don't forget, there's also that tree in California that's like illegal to photograph due to a state law. It's like, what? It's Not Me 07 was almost on time today. Almost. The creativist says the 5090 is the current best. The second best is Radeon. So is the third best the 5080? The question is, how much more would the 5090 have cost? Because I was looking at the variety of things that go along. And the jump happened on the next one. I'm like, okay, let's talk about this. Will this serve my needs? The guy's like, oh yeah. Kyle Robeson, Micro Center is a great computer store, and that's where it was, a Micro Center. Oh, the creative is the 5090 is like $1,800. Dan Boyd, Micro Center rocks. I built my computer. I've bought, I think, 1, 2, 3 or 4 computers through them, but I know a guy who's an industrial user who literally buys dozens of computers a year and always goes there. Like, they're like, hey, they recognize when he walks in, like Norm at Cheers, you know? Bob Neal, the North American Auto Show is still going on in Detroit. Yeah. And they moved it back to the correct time of the year. They tried putting it in the summertime and no one showed up. And they actually thought, well, gee, isn't the cold weather keeping people away? But it's like, yeah, but it's also the first show of the year. So obviously people want to go to the first auto show of the year. NCIS is 15 minutes late, is still on time in Southern culture. And it's called fashionably late in some circles. MH08 Micro Center is the adult toy store. Oh, NCIS, and remember Circuit City? Yeah. Circuit City. I remember there's a Circuit City on one side of the road and a Best Buy on the other side. I don't think I ever went into Circuit City. I don't remember. Kyle Robinson says, yeah, Costco will occasionally have really good deals on pre-built computers. I actually accompanied somebody recently to a Costco and they bought a computer and asking the person questions about it. And you get the salesperson who's assigned to that section store is like, well, I don't know. It says this. Doug Jones, my first computer was a 386. I could turn it on, go get coffee and breakfast while I was booting up. Well, do you remember when Windows came on a stack of floppies? It's like 1 of 12, 2 of 12. Insert next disk. Rudy, have you ever seen or messed with 3D printers? No, I have not. But I mean, I know people who've got them and I've seen them used to make some very, very cool stuff, but I've never used one or owned one. I'm not sure if I'd ever get one because I don't really find a need to be making stuff like that, but I'm familiar with it. They're very, very cool. One of the coolest inventions of our lifetime, I think. Dan Boyd, Radio Shack used to be cool. I mean, at one point in time, I owned a Radio Shack computer, a Tandy laptop. Yeah. Teddy Boragina, we had a 286 Tandy when I was growing up. Tandy. The Creativist, an Apple II. My father and mother had an Apple IIe, I believe. Still had the green blinking cursor and all that. It's antique now. Aaron Coakley, one of the Star Wars games was 30 floppies. I remember when they came out with the CDs and they're like, do you understand that one CD will be able to replace all this paper? Oh, it's amazing how that happens. Michael M. 923, I still have sets of those Windows floppies. Oh, yeah, Mike Lackner, the old Timex Sinclair ZX81. I remember the drugstore selling those underneath the counter with the watches. Old Paint, you see the Army's new Abrams tank prototype? No. I'll have to look for that. Little Rigs I Am. Hello, Steve. Fatty with Butterpants, bring back tubes and 8 tracks. I don't know about 8 tracks. Problem with an 8-track was occasionally the song would run on one track and skip the next track, and you can't have it doing that, but during the song. Yeah, Art Bell's Ghost. I owned a Tandy that used a TV for the monitor. Yeah, and you actually go back and plug in the antenna, like the little, it had those little U clips, right? Michael Krause, my first computer had a cassette deck. Of course, the early, was that also a Tandy? Is it a Tandy? I'm trying to think of it. I had one of those computers too, but it didn't have any memory other than the cassette. So you'd basically like you play with it, experiment with it, Yeah, Lord Vader. People remember floppies don't always even remember they came in multiple sizes. Yeah, and by the way, there was a time when you had the smaller disc. Then there was that bigger disc that actually was floppy, and I've seen one of those very recently. But yeah, Darkwood, I still use WordPerfect. I liked WordPerfect also. I always felt bad because Word was just Microsoft's ripoff of it. But what are you gonna do? Yeah, Teddy Boragina says there were the floppy floppies and then the hard floppies. Semi-rigid. Yeah, the Commodore VIC-20 and the C64, Low Rigs I Am, they both had tape drives. I had a tape backup system that was a thing for about 3 weeks. And I think I still have a pile of tapes too. But of course, I don't have a reader for them anymore. Overkill Pinball, I didn't know you were experimental. I'm still an experiment. I'm still a test in progress. It's not Mio7. This is what Microsoft did. They steal stuff. I remember talking to another lawyer who goes, I don't understand why America Online is suing Microsoft for giving away a browser. And I go, what do you mean you don't understand that? And he goes, they're giving it away. And I'm like, can you imagine if Ford Motor Company gave away toasters until they put their competitor out of business and then started selling toasters? Fatty Butterpants used the old 3.5 discs as coasters. Yeah, that's what you do, the old AOL CDs. Old Paint says the tank is in the basement at the auto show. Was it too heavy to put upstairs? Aaron Coakley, let's not talk about the zip drive. Let's talk about it briefly in the click of death. If you had a zip drive, it was iOmega that made the zip drive, and you put a disc in to save something and start going click, 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 it meant that disc was shot and you couldn't recover what was on it, like ever. I remember listening to Kim Commando talking about the click of death, and I had an iOmega zip drive and I got rid of it very quickly. But the only reason I was listening to her is that she's actually on a radio station that I worked at the time. It was syndicated. Overkill Pinball, you did name your chat January Experiment Live. Yes, and the reason I said the experiment is the equipment I've got that's brand new. Anytime I start something new, it's always an experiment. The Great Quidjabo, genuine question. If there's no expectation of privacy in a public place and filming people is protected by the government, why isn't the government afforded the same right when it comes to the flock cameras? That's an interesting question. The answer is the government doesn't have the same rights that you and I've got. You and I've got a right to privacy and a right to all kinds of things. And I know you're going to say, but Steve, these cameras in public are filming. We're not saying it's like unconstitutional necessarily for them to do that. We're just saying that we don't like it. And so we get to tell the government what to do because we vote. That's what this country is all about. So I personally think it's intrusive. But I just think, if nothing else, I think a vast majority of people would say, I don't like this idea. Let's not do it. But the other point I'm trying to make, though, is that we actually do, you and I, have rights that the government does not have. In fact, I saw a very interesting article. I did not do a video on it yet about a woman being threatened that she had slandered the government. And the letter was written by an attorney. And another attorney wrote that attorney back and said, the government doesn't have standing to sue for slander, libel, or defamation because that's not how it works. Lowell Riggs, I met my ex-wife on AOL. I have 2 wonderful kids to show for it. That last portion of the sentence is important to make up for the first part where he said my ex-wife. But yeah, there you go. AOL. Everybody had AOL at one time or another, even if just for a few minutes. The Creativist, do you use Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve? I use Premiere Pro only because that's what I learned on. And I do all my own editing, obviously. And I've had people talking about DaVinci Resolve, and it's like kind of like, you know, if I learned on it beginning, that would be great, but I'm not going to completely shift gears right now and try to learn something new. Yeah, Michelle Price is Kim Commando is still broadcasting. I'm sure she is. But she was syndicated on a radio station that I worked at when I was doing a call and talk show in Flint, Michigan, back in the mid to late 1990s. And so when I got off the air, somebody flipped the switch, and next thing you know, it's Kim Commando. And so if I was on my drive home, I'd often listen to her just to see what else is happening in the world. Image Doc Rage, you said David Lee bought the one of one factory white 62 Ferrari GTO at the Mecum auction. No, I did not. You mean David Lee Roth? Does he have that kind of money? Miko Angel says, I has headache. Perhaps you has cheeseburger too. Oh, little guy, chat rooms ruined modern culture. I met some nice people in chat rooms. The problem is they're all over the world. I've still got friends in other countries that I've never met. Oh, the Creativist, DaVinci Resolve is $300 for life. The Premiere is like $70 a month. Yeah, and Golden Corral costs half of what it costs to go to a nice steakhouse. I'm joking. I understand that. DePaul, Netscape Navigator. That's actually what I was thinking of, because they got destroyed by companies giving away free browsers. Michelangelo says no cheeseburger. Doug Jones or Lemon claims increasing with the recent engine issues. Lately, it seems to be electrical problems, electrical issues. They're keeping me alive. Oh, image doc Ray Ferrari collector David Lee. I'm sorry, I didn't know who David Lee was. I've never heard the name that I know of. Of course, that guy gets asked that all the time. Oh, you mean like David Lee Roth? Yeah, DePaul met friends in other countries through ham radio. There you go. Silent Hanga says third consecutive day with blizzard conditions in western Minnesota. And trust me, a western Minnesota blizzard is going to be ugly. Ugly. Dan Boyd says chat rooms are good for meeting your heroes. A lot of the automotive magazine writers from the 20th century have YouTube channels now. I was writing for Jalopnik and roadandtrack.com before I shot videos. Darkwood says, hey, it's a good thing when you got friends far away because they can't ask you to help them move. Oh. Belio, they even named a movie You've Got Mail. It's a decent movie, but it's a remake. Is it called The Shop Around the Corner? Yeah, Arts 4014 says this was not the GTO across the street from you because that one was red. And I'm surprised at the price differential. Is it simply the fact that it's white? Who wants a white Ferrari? Oh, boy. The little guy, if you didn't become an attorney, would you have continued to pursue a career in radio? Possibly, or would have moved more into writing, like more into writing full time. Fat and butter pants, give me ham on 5. Hold the mail. Stop calling me Shirley. MHO8 says Eastern South Dakota having snow with 50-mile-per-hour winds. See, and that, of course, what leads into those Western Minnesota blizzards. $5.18 Adventures says, hi, it's Darlene. Just was thinking about how can you make sure what you buy is what you get. You buy something online, not everyone knows about the Magnus and Moss Warranty Act. Well, buying online is a crapshoot. You got to make sure you're dealing with somebody reputable. I've talked to people before who've gotten things, especially off eBay, where if the seller's not legit, you might get something that's not what you expected. So Chuck Whitehead says, I think Facebook kind of has a monopoly on social media. But Facebook is unfortunately, and I just say it's because it's a natural progression of things. They started out and they started getting tons and tons of traction. But you have to remember that at one point in time, they had no advertising. And then when they took it public and Zuckerberg became a billionaire, they said, okay, you got to start making money now. So they started monetizing everything. And when they monetized it, they completely changed the news feeds. They screwed everything up. And now people are leaving. And so what's happening is a lot of the early adopters are gone, moved on to other things. And now Facebook has become the thing that your uncool parents are using. Dan Boyd, a kid in my high school, had a 69 black Pontiac GTO with Kragers, and that car was beautiful. Kragers. That was a big deal when I was in high school, too. Kragers. The Creativist, in all your videos, you have a different t-shirt on. Do you have like 500 closets? Well, I don't have one closet per t-shirt. I do have 2 big racks over there. And I think I've counted before, and I think there's 400 or 500 shirts on those racks. And so they work their way through. Some come out, some go back in. Lockwatcher says that Judy Garland did a remake of The Shop Around the Corner called In the Good Old Summertime. I did not know that. Of course, I didn't see The Shop Around the Corner either. I just remember seeing the Tom Hanks movie and going, oh, and someone says that's a remake. I'm like, really? But they updated it, you know. John Zablak, shirts happen. Shirts happen. Scott Summers, a friend of mine, met someone who is running for governor here in Michigan. Which which person is it? There's a bunch of people running for governor. Stop spamming am. Enjoyed your haunted forest video. Need to come up with a backstory. Yeah, no, it's kind of funny because I mentioned in the video on Friday that I did on VinWiki that my brother passed away back in April, and I've talked about that here. And so my brother who passed away, my brother Dave, he was the one that when we were growing up was really into like the adventure stories. He loved pirate stories and things like that. And when we became adults, he still had a little bit of that in him, and we would joke about things. And so on his own property, he lived up north. He had about 5 or 6 acres up north. He had nicknames for stuff out there too, you know. And somehow we never got rid of that portion of our childhoods. And so when I told my brother that I have this piece of property, there's this one corner where these trees were a bunch of them are dead, but there's a creek going by there, and it's kind of cool. I said, and I call it the haunted forest. And he completely understood what I meant by that, but it's not really haunted. And I've gone through there at night. I'm not scared of it or anything, but it just has that dark and dreary look to it, especially in the evening. And you know, if you stop and you're quiet, you might hear things skittering around. You know, and yeah, it's chipmunks. You know, whatever. But when it's dark on your little kid, that could be scary. So Old Paint 71. Sadly, Facebook Marketplace has replaced Craigslist. You go through Facebook Marketplace and you'll see some of the most outrageously stupid ads. And there's like a photograph of like, you know, a Ferrari, and it's been stolen off the internet. And they're like, yeah, I have to get rid of this. $4,000 takes it, you know. Yeah, sure. Mike Lack, have you ever listened to Handle on the Law? Yes. He's syndicated nationally. I've heard him from time to time. I'm not sure if he's on in the area where I live, but they've tamed him down greatly from his early years. I was always a little surprised that he did not have more disclaimers on his show, because I heard people calling in and him giving very specific answers. And that's a dangerous thing to do if you don't know what state someone's calling from. So if someone calls a landlord tenant question and they're calling you from New York City, the answer is very different than if they live in like Nebraska. Trust me. So Michelle Price says she liked Handle Law too, but he was mean. Really? The great Quidge about what's in the safe. That safe right there is a toy. There's actually nothing in it. It's just a toy. I was at a flea market, junk show, swap meet, whatever you want to call it. And I had one of those when I was a little kid. And I looked at it, I'm like, that's the safe I had as a little kid. And I think I paid $10 for it. And it just reminds me when I was a little kid. 518 Adventures for you. Thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate that. Oh, Scott Summers, the sheriff out of Genesee. Yeah. I like him, but he's got a long way to go, according to the polls. Image Doc Ray, trees that throw apples at you. Yeah, Sheriff Summers. He's in the Sheriff Swanson. Scott Summers. Bill Thomas, our neighbor put a joke street sign on our private road and Google changed its name to match. Jason Brendamauer, the Vin Wiki on your brother was cool. My brother and I never got along. At 49, we don't even speak to each other. Only have the one brother. I mentioned in there, I was one of 6 boys. And there have been periods of time where some didn't talk to others, but over time, you have more in common than you don't. So oh, Chuck Whitehead says Facebook also says something about your post goes against their policies, but then they have all kinds of stuff on there that obviously violates their policies. And worse, they allow people to put up paid ads it'll say you have a friend request. And if you click on it, it'll take you off of Facebook. And Facebook knows they're doing that, but they don't care. They're just taking the money. So that's. I only use Facebook to promote my YouTube videos. The Creativist is at Flea Market, the giant one off of I-94 in Clinton Township, the Gibraltar Trade Center, still there. Yes. Yes. I'm pretty sure it is. I know a guy who found the, what do you want to call it? It was the remains of a race car for $5,000 at a flea market like that. And he bought it not knowing what it was. It turns out it was a Superbird that was raced in the 70s. And it was worth substantially more than $5,000 once he could prove that. So 518 Adventures for you says you're an inspiration to me. I'm going to college in the fall and hope to go to law school. You're welcome. Thank you. Oh, just don't blame me if you find it, law school will be a little difficult. Aaron Coakley, my oak tree is attacked by accelerating acorns to terminal velocity. I've got a couple oak trees in my property, but it's the walnuts. I've got walnuts. I've never been hit by a falling walnut, but man, I run them over my lawnmower all the time. Craigslist kept rejecting my ads, says Dan Boyd, when trying to get a place rented. Wait, Craigslist has standards of any sort? Really? The Creativist, thanks. Love that place. Gibraltar Trade Center. Have not been down in that area like in 20 years. There's also a flea market where Telegraph Dead ends into Dixie Highway up in Pontiac. It's been there a million years. But I went in there recently, and about half the stuff in there is where somebody is, I don't know, going to like China or something and buying the cheapest like radios and hair dryers, and the stuff looks brand new, but it looks junky already. And it's looking more for antiques. Michael Curry, hello, Steve from Vermont. 4 inches that funny ice under 6 inches of dusty snow. Oh, that's a nightmare. I drove down a ways on Wednesday and didn't realize how bad the weather was going to be around rush hour. I drove 45 minutes in one direction. It took me 3 hours to get back. Oh, boy. The Creatives, I don't think I've been to the one in Pontiac. It's been there. It's Dixieland Flea Market. It's been there for a million years. It's been there a million years. Johnny Quest is a YouTube lawyer who's been exposed for his degrees. It's kind of funny. I've had people ask me, well, how do we know if you're a lawyer? Well, let's see. I've told you I'm a lawyer in Michigan. You can go to the Michigan bar and look me up. I mean, to pretend to be a lawyer, you got to be careful. There's actually laws against it. QSRAR, would you call these streams office hours or fireside chats? I think of them more as fireside chats. I used to have office hours. I taught at the University of Detroit Mercy School of Law and their main campus. And I wound up teaching 4 different classes, 3 of them law school classes, one of them a regular class on Michigan history. And the funny thing about office hours is that nobody ever took advantage of them. Usually, I just go sit in the office and read a book. Bob Bong, it's snowing in Niles, Michigan. Yeah, I think it's snowing pretty much all across the state on and off today. Not hard, but just a little bit. The picturesque stuff. Doug Jones says he wears a hard hat when cutting the lawn in the fall because it can hurt getting hit in the head by an acorn. Really? I would think the odds are against you actually getting nailed by, one directly in the head. Signata, it's dusting of snow here, but a lot of wind. I had a brother who lived in South Dakota briefly, like a year or two, and that's what he talked about. Was not the cold, the wind. It's just it's nothing to slow it down, apparently. Arts 4014 says I was the underbidder of a dead race car that had some Ferrari logos, and it turned out to be the remains of an early 50s race car worth millions, chassis 0202A. Wow. Silent Hangus, what's the latest on the Wild E. Coyote movie and viewing party? We're still working on it. We have been talking about it. In fact, I spoke to the people at the Institute for Justice who are going to co-sponsor it with me, but we're still a ways out. So, the creativist, I enjoy interactions like this. I was bored to death. That's a Sunday. Come on. Get all this time, do something. I always assume that people are here as a last resort. Like there's nothing else. I'll just go to YouTube and watch Steve. The creativist, no snow right now, just northeast of Traverse City. What town are you in? Or what town are you nearest? I know the Traverse City area very, very well. My brother lived down near Interlaken. I've got friends who lived out in the Old Mission Peninsula. I've been all up and around that area so many times. Mr. Monjour, keep reporting on the auto industry. Thank you. I'll try. I that's the stuff I read the most. DePaul says Niles is home of St. Mary's College. An ex-girlfriend went there. There's also an Andrews University not far from there. Bealey, how do we know that you're really Steve Lehto, not just someone who looks like him? Or it could be Johnny Rotten, as so many people tell me. Because Steve, you look just like Johnny Rotten. Like, thanks. Oh, boy. The little guy, when will you start to give paid rides in the Cobra? I'm first. I give people rides in my cars all the time. You got to just find me when I'm at like a Cars and Coffee or something. I let my friends drive it. No one drives my Viper, but my Cobra, as long as I'm in the car, I don't care. That is not a legally binding contract, by the way. Doug Jones, I was shoveling the snow and a teenager walked down the street wearing shorts. Oh, boy. QSRAR, I tried to find videos of IJ court cases online, but couldn't find them, trying to see their lawyers argue live. I'm not sure if they've posted any on their stuff, like on their channels. I've watched them live on the internet by finding a case of theirs that was broadcast. So I remember them arguing a case in front of the Ninth Circuit. I forgot which case it was, but I saw them argue a case. But I attended an argument where they argued in front of the Michigan Supreme Court. And I forgot the attorney's name. I'm having a mental blank. One of the best arguments I've ever seen. This guy was good. And they are very, very good. So if they do stuff out there, check it out. The creative is someplace northwest of Mansalona, which rhymes with my Sharona. And I believe there's an ice cream place in Mansalona. Have been through there many, many times. Image Doc Radio, you miss California's weather. I was out there during a drought. I was out there from 89 to 91, and it didn't rain, but maybe 1 day or 2 days the entire time. It was so bad. The heat and the air, and people don't understand. The conditions in the air have changed in Los Angeles in the last 30 years. They have. And I've been shocked every time I go back at how different it was from the 2 years I lived there. You had a hard time. Uh, you had a hard time breathing the air if you're used to clean air. Belio says Jay Leno's got a story about giving two hoodlum-looking guys a ride in his McLaren. Really? Didn't hear that one. Old Paint says there's also an M4 tank on display in Mansalona. Did not know about that. The Creativist says Mansalona real estate is super cheap. I have a couple rentals there. 518 Adventures for you. Why is the Cybertruck legal but no other vehicles are in the U.S. with similar sharp corners? The question is, did anybody ever think to build a car with sharp corners? I'm not sure. Is it a safety issue? I suspect that they did it because there are no laws against, sharp angles on cars. The question is, are they very good aerodynamically, et cetera? Bob Bong says Andrews is in Berrien Springs, about 10 miles away. I just meant in that general area. Yeah. Because Berrien Springs, Niles, Eau Claire, Dowagiac, that corner of the state, Arts 4014 says Michigan is nice. It has seasons. Tornado James, what are your thoughts on Josh and Jace, the British boys touring Michigan? I only heard about them. I don't know anything else about them other than that someone told me there's two British guys in Michigan. I wish they had told me. I could have showed them around, but no one ever thinks of me of these things. So Tin Door Tailgater, good afternoon to everyone. Thanks for all you do, Steve. You're welcome. Wade Pittenger, do you always read the terms and conditions before clicking agree since you're an attorney? No, I just click agree and I just assume it's the worst possible. I just assume that, yes, of course, my thermos is probably tracking my thoughts and giving them to the Chinese. Okay. I just, being a lawyer is maybe paranoid. Oh, boy. SKS Hugo, the knack played at my junior high in 1983, I think. Are you in southeastern Michigan? Because the knack, of course, my Sharona, they're from the Ferndale, Berkeley area with the Doug Feiger, the lead singer, who is the brother of Jeffrey Feiger, the attorney. Arts 4014, Steve needs a Sherman tank. Yeah, I don't know where I'd drive it. It'd probably tear up the road unless you got special tracks for it. Blah, 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 do you blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Click and agree below. The Creativist, does the state license lawyers for life, or do you have some kind of renewal process? Yeah, you get a new license every. Some make you take continuing legal education to maintain your license. Michigan got rid of the education a while back, so all I got to do is I just got to pay my fees every year. Bill McMahon's back from running errands. Good afternoon, everybody. Several people lost the signal. Now I'm starting to worry about this experiment. Joel Sibisky says not giving it to the Chinese, but to the U.S. government. Well, I was trying to think what was the worst possible. I'm not sure which would be worse. Art Bell's Ghost, ever been to Death Valley? No, I've not been to Death Valley. I've also never been to Bonneville Salt Flats. How many people are online with you now? I show 350. 350. 858 Bill, how much time do you spend learning changes to the law? Every attorney I know, myself included, there are certain places you always follow just to look for changes. And there are some publications that will point out big changes in the law. The good news is that lemon law doesn't change that often, but people who do auto negligence, especially in Michigan, you gotta stay on top of that stuff. It changes yearly. The legislation changes, and then also so do the court opinions. So Jay Klein went to Death Valley. It was hot and windy. Hot and windy. Boomer 6129. The salt flats are fun to see for the first time. I heard they're blinding too. The creativist loves that Michigan raised the small claims level to $7,000. For the longest time, it was way too low, not keeping up with inflation. $7,000 makes sense. Tornado James, do you like the idea of going to law school, or do you agree that there are some states where they let you, quote unquote, apprentice with the law and they still make you take some kind of test at the end? Um, I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer to that, only because knowing what I know now, you could, for instance, cut the law in half and say, be certified only as a criminal lawyer or only as a civil lawyer. The fact that you have to learn both to get through law school and become a lawyer, to me, is like overkill. Like, why do both? But there are attorneys. I mean, I've done both in my career. But if somebody had said, Steve, hey, you can save like 1 year of law school and pick one. Just okay, I'll do civil law. If people call and need a criminal attorney, I don't handle that, because you call me right now with that, I just don't take those cases. And there's some stuff you'd still have to take evidence. Both sides have to take evidence. But criminal procedure, who cares? But anyway. Yeah, Steve G, California small claims is $10,000. Bob Kerflugen, Whitefish Point is awesome. Yeah, Silent Hangus asks, are there any good Michigan Upper Peninsula recommendations to visit? And Whitefish Point and Tequamanon Falls, if you go over to the eastern end of the UP, are two things you should check out. Whitefish Point is the home of the Shipwreck Museum, and that's a very, very cool place. Tequamanon Falls are beautiful. And then the Sioux Locks, you make it all the way over to the eastern end. But also the Keweenaw Peninsula. Get up to Copper Harbor if you can, and check out Calumet in the Houghton Hancock area. And as somebody says, mind bend, Lehto's pasties. Joe Lontrue says that's like barristers and solicitors in the UK, although I don't know that they make a distinction between criminal and civil. But I see what you're saying. They simply split the practice in a different way. And that was, I see the logic of that. Michelle Price, I visited the UP when I was a kid. All I remember are the black flies were brutal. Depends on the time of the year. But if you are up there in the wrong time of the year, the black flies and the mosquitoes can be bad, especially if you're out in the woods. But depends on where you go. Yeah, Bill Thomas in the 80s, our local high school had driving simulators, the movie projector. We had those too. When I was in driver's ed, you sat at a thing with steering wheel and pedals, and you're supposed to be like simulating driving, but it wasn't quite the same. Jason Brindamauer kayaked the Ontonagon River. Really? Wow. Very cool. Very cool. I've had my canoe out on Lake Superior. So Miko Angel QW, I want to try Lehto's pasties. It's really sad is there's two Lehto's pasties, one in Sault Ste. Marie and one, or not Ste. Marie, St. Ignace, and then one on US 2, just west of St. Ignace. And whenever I go in there, I say hi. I literally say, hey guys, I'm Steve Lehto. Nice to meet you. Good to see you. And a friend of mine went in there about a month ago and said, hey, do you guys know who Steve Lehto is? And the guy behind the counter goes, Yeah, he's always in here asking for free pasties. I have never once asked for a free pasty. Never. And it's like, I don't know if the guy's joking or what. But I said to my friend, I go, did he really say? He goes, yes, he said that seriously. He's always in here asking for free pasties. I've never done that. So I'm not sure if I like Lehto's pasties anymore. We'll see. The creativist thinks that the highwaymen charge too much to cross the Mackinac Bridge. I think it's $4 for a car. Come on. I tell people it's not a toll. It's the admission price to the greatest amusement park on earth. $4. Come on. SKS Hugo, have you seen the Canadian sitcom Corner Gas? I've seen a couple episodes, yeah. Sub GR, I took my canoe out on Lake Michigan. I've had mine on Lake Huron, Lake Superior, and I've also had mine in a couple different rivers, bunch of rivers. Well, Isaac Bob York says might be the other Steve Lehto, but the thing is that I have business cards that actually say Lehto's Law on them. And I usually walk in and say, if it's somebody I haven't met before, I go, hi, my name is Steve Lehto. And I give them a card and I order some food. And I go, oh, cool. And I go, don't worry, we're not related because I've checked, whatever. And he's always in here asking for free pasties. I wear their shirts on my show. At least I used to. Joshua Gibson says Little Miami is dangerous as hell around Waynesville. Lots of strainer trees. The problem with a canoe in a river, I was always paranoid about this, is you're cruising along. I've got a motor on mine. You're cruising along, and there can be a stump or a branch right beneath the surface, and it can cause the canoe to do all kinds of stuff. I've only dumped my canoe over one time, once, and that's enough to really make you think. So, yeah, NZ Kiwi NZ points that Burt Munro was a motorcycle racer. He's also the guy from the movie Fastest Indian from New Zealand, famous for setting a motorcycle speed record in the 1000cc class at Bonneville a long time ago. The creative says toll road should be illegal in America. Yeah, but they got to pay for that bridge. The maintenance is a bitch. Can I say that here? I guess I can. Mind bend. Steve and lawyers in general make good money. Why would he ask for free pasties? I've heard of people out there who've got money who ask for free stuff because they're idiots. And that's my concern is the guy's making me look like I'm an idiot. 518 Adventures. What do you think about Carvana? I'm not crazy about Carvana's business model, but I've never bought one from them, and I've not known anybody personally who did. Because the weird thing about Carvana is, they'll like buy your car sight unseen, right? Like you just sell them your car, and so they're assuming the cars are basically like commodities. It's like, hmm. So yeah, Mark, I'm not offended by pasties. I'm offended by somebody saying I'm asking for free stuff. Tornado James, if you were to rewrite the lemon law to cover RVs, how would you rewrite it? Yeah, it depends on how aggressive you wanted to get. I mean, you could make the RV lemon law just simply cover the automobile portion of it, the drivetrain, engine, transmission, rear axles, whatever. Um, and if you want to get even more aggressive, you could say that it could cover interior things also. But the question is whether you get a buyback because like the cabinets won't stay shut. It's hard to say. But I'd be more inclined just towards the driving stuff. Tin door tailgate or ketchup or gravy. Um, Believe it or not, my number one choice is butter, but a lot of places don't offer butter, so then I go with ketchup. Sub GR, is Carvana allowed to sell cars in Michigan? I believe they are now, but they've lost their right to do so at least once, maybe twice. Um, they were having growing pains, shall we say, where they were not providing paperwork as fast as they should have, and they got in trouble with the state a couple times. Jason Brindamar, do you fish or just enjoy the paddling and surroundings? Just the surroundings. I haven't fished since I was a little kid. And that was literally a stick with a string and a hook and a worm catching trout near my grandmother's house. Straight out of Norman Rockwell. 518 Adventures for you. Lemon laws to cover e-bikes, or they get covered under the Magnus Moss? They're covered under Mag Moss. Same with motorcycles. I've handled motorcycle cases before. I used to. Oh, Alan V9216. Hey, Steve, go IU tomorrow. He has a big football game tomorrow. I always forget that they put that thing on Monday. Alex A, how long does it take to fill out the paperwork? Here's the problem. There are big car dealerships out there that have someone whose job it is to do the paperwork, and they are on top of it. But it's a nightmare. There's a ton of paperwork when you sell a car or buy a car. And the state of Michigan gives you so many days to do it. And they would just fall behind. And they were expanding so quickly when they were building the business up that they didn't realize that, like, it's not just buying and selling cars as fast as you can. You got to bring in the people behind it to do the paperwork. So Chuck Whitehead still trying to figure out what's happening with the back windows and the Nissan Rogues. I have no idea, because that's the thing. Like I said before, it's not like this is a radical concept. Let's put a window in the back of the car. They've had them there for decades. Why suddenly now? There's got to be something unusual about the shape of the window or the window frame, or something about the way the body flexes, or something unusual. Kelly Trimble, what do you think about the new ABA-approved online law schools? Just wondering. I don't know. If I was going to go to law school today and I could do it from home, I probably would. But I can tell you right now that you don't learn anything as well as you will when you realize that if you don't learn it really well by tomorrow and you're in a classroom and that professor calls on you, I have a sneaky feeling that people, when they're at home in their pajamas and they get called on and be like, can you call me tomorrow? And they'll probably get away with it more easily from home. I could be wrong. Tornado James says the back windows could have some kind of stress on a corner to cause them to explode. Something like that. There's something like that. Mark Miller, should Nissan Rogue engineers be licensed? Probably. Kelly Trimble, I'm 63 years old and I'm 2L at Vermont doing something I wish I did in my 20s. Thanks to the input. Please send me an email and say, hey, this is Kelly Trimble from the chat. I'm 2L and wanted to say hello because you told me to. And if you do that, I'll send you a free book. Okay? Because once in a while, I hear from people who either are thinking about going to law school, or they're not sure they should, or they're like, am I too old? And I had people in my class in their 60s. There ain't nothing wrong with that. Especially if you've got some life experience behind you, you should be able to do some useful things. So please, please send me an email. And I'm going to put the email right down here so that you have no excuse not to send it to me as I move stuff around on my desk. and Steve at Lehto'sLaw.com. Please do that. EDG, hello, everyone from a snowy day in the Poconos. Snowy day in the Poconos. Sounds like that could be like a John Denver album. Snowy day in the Poconos. Oh, boy. E-informed? Do we know if an automotive supplier is involved or is it just Nissan? That's the one thing we don't know. I don't know. I mean, because nowadays, back in the old days, like Henry Ford made his own windshields. Okay. Nowadays, they have everything made by other people. So is it the supplier or is it the design or who knows? Tornado James, what steps do you recommend for people to go to law school? Well, I mean, it's the same steps for everybody. You got to get an undergraduate degree, then you get a law degree. And obviously, to get an undergraduate degree, it's going to take some time. And then you got to take the LSAT and apply to law schools, and you get into law school and you go there. But what I was saying earlier is that if somebody is, 18 years old and they go to college, and they're 22 years old and they go to law school, and they graduate at 25, well, then it winds up being that you're a 25-year-old with a law degree. And if somebody goes to college, gets an undergraduate degree, goes and works someplace for 10 years, then goes to law school, they have that experience behind them where they understand a field. And so when somebody comes to a big firm and goes, hey, I got a problem that involves a gas station. And some guy goes, hey, before I went to law school, I worked for 10 years at a petroleum distribution company. Guess who's getting to work on that case? And that'll help. Mindbend 2026. How many books do we have to send? Less than one, because I suspect that I will not get the email I asked for. Yeah, the creativist says, yeah, many use suppliers. Oh, no, it depends on the parts. The dashboards, seats. There's all kinds of transmissions. There's all kinds of things that the car companies stopped building years ago. Dan Boyd, Corvettes, the C3s lost T-tops during manufacturer's testing. T-tops. I had a couple cars with T-tops. I liked them. I thought they were cool. Dirk Ramaswinkle, do you type your legal documents or do you voice dictation? I've never used voice dictation. I never have. 518 Adventures. I'm, just for your information, 41, going to start college when I'm 42, and then go to law school. So you're never too old. You're not. You're never too old. Silent Hangus, grandfather used to say Studebaker went under because their cars were built so well. That's always a thing. You build a car and it lasts for too long. And there's some car companies, no, we want to buy a car every 3 years, please. Come on. Multi-chick, hey, Steve Lehto, happy Sunday. If you'd said, hey, Steve, I'd know you were talking to me, but thanks. Mark Miller, I was surprised to get a recall notice on a 2015 Ford Escape. Didn't think they allowed for 10 plus years. I believe that if it's a safety recall, they can go up beyond 10 years. Now, I don't know if they're going to recall like a 1927 DeSoto, but I think I've heard of recalls over 10 years old. Dan Boyd says Studebaker technically still exists. They just ceased manufacturing cars. He's not really dead. Besides pining for the fjords, he's simply stopped being. Johnny Quest is accepting bids on a signed copy of American Murder Houses. No low balls. I know what I got. William Crandall says, I would think once it's considered an antique at 25 years old, it would not have any recalls. But the thing about it is the government says, well, yeah, but if you put the car out and it's got a safety issue and it's still on the road, but I'm not sure if it matters how many of them are out there or what. So, yeah, Art Bell's Ghost says he has a Sequoia that was 20 years old and part of an airbag recall. MH08, get notices about my airbag in my 2008. Ironman Kodak still exists. Oh, boy. Yeah, the sad part is you get the recalls and the parts aren't available yet. Bill McMahon with the 2015 Ford Flex rear camera. Tornado James, the Takata, do you think it may be a fact that manufactured items should have a safety expiration date? And should airbags be a replaceable part? Well, if they can make them not, because the problem is if they're replaceable, people won't replace them, because people go, well, what are the odds I'm going to need that? Belio, did any of the recalled Takata airbags ever actually get replaced? I thought they did, but I thought it was just literally one of those things where they're getting so few of them done at a time that it wasn't making that big of a difference. Joel Sibisky, so what recall memory do you use as a lawyer, or do you have to look up case law on every case you defend? Well, that's one of the reasons you specialize. So I can tell you what issues there are with the lemon law that have been ruled on by the courts in Michigan. I know where all the issues are. I know which cases to point to that say what I need them to say. But I know there are people out there, and there's some very, very arcane topics of law where one or two people might actually know this stuff. A couple of professors might, but then you go look stuff up. Believe it or not, law school is not about memorizing cases. It's about understanding the legal process and spotting the issues and then knowing how to look the issues up, because that's really what people fight about. Tornado James, what was your most challenging lemon law case that took a lot of memory or work? Well, the sad part is the good cases shouldn't be that difficult, but I've had defense attorneys who thought that was their job. But it's not the client's fault. The creativist patent law is the one that infuriates me. It costs more to get legal than to launch a company. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people complain about, and obviously the patent trolls are another issue altogether. Lethological Gaming says, honestly, I think I'd be more worried if the windshields exploded on command rather than random. No, if you could detonate them on command, you just never detonate them unless you think other people can detonate them, which might be a problem. But it's not me. Oh, 07 says, according to the manual in my old 1988 Dodge Daytona, airbags should be replaced every 10 years. Now, I had a Daytona from right around that era, but I don't remember them saying that. But I mean, I believe you. I didn't read I didn't read the manual. It's not me. 07. Ever have a case where the manufacturer lawyer dragged out beyond the value of the car? I doubt that anybody ever ran up their fees higher than the value of the car. But I remember some attorneys making some idiotic arguments. And I once had an attorney. These are the kind of stories. I mean, if you don't believe me, the story's not that interesting. But I had an attorney once who was defending a case. I kept telling him, you're going to lose. You're going to lose. You're going to lose. Nope, 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 nope. And last settlement conference, he's like, Your Honor, we are prepared to go to trial, and we're not. So we're preparing for trial. I'm in my office with my clients at 5 o'clock the day before trial starts. And my phone rings, and I look at the caller ID, and it's the other attorney's office. And I pick the phone up, and it's him. And he goes, "Hey, Steve," he goes, "for reasons not germane to this conversation, my client has agreed to buy your client's car back." And by him saying for reasons not germane to this conversation, he was basically saying, and you can't ask me why. And I go, "I told you you're going to lose the case." He goes, "No, we're not losing. We're buying your car back." I go, "And you're paying my fees, right?" And he goes, "Yes." So he got to pay my attorney fees up to the eve of trial and buy my client's car back. My client's sitting right there. So, I mean, I cleared it with them, and I hang the phone up, and I'm like, "Sorry." They're like, "Oh, we don't get to go to trial tomorrow?" I'm like, "No, you just won." For reasons not germane to this conversation. It's one of my favorite quotes of all time. I'm not sure. I should look that guy up. I'm not sure if he's still around. He's a bit older than I was, and that was a few years ago. But there's another friend of mine who's an attorney. I've known him for a million years. Every now and then, one of us will just go, "For reasons not germane to this conversation," and then we'll start saying something. Oh boy. Tornado James, do you think there should be a fee associated for the client for time, energy, and effort in prosecuting or defending cases? I'm not sure what you mean, a fee associated for the client. Because if you go to trial and you win and you've got a fee shifting statute like the Lemon Law, the court will award you reasonable fees. And so if you tell the court, "Hey, I spent 25 hours with my client preparing for trial," they're going to go, "That's not reasonable." And if you say, "But my client's a real idiot, Your Honor, it took me 25 hours," the court's going to go, "That's still not reasonable." So a reasonable amount of time would get awarded, but not necessarily all of it. Blah blah blah. My sister and I chuckle at the expression is similar, but different. Oh, Belio, the Germans had nothing to do with it. I suspect they were behind this somehow for reasons not germane to this conversation. Settlements remove public records. I'm not sure what that means. The car in question was a Chrysler product, by the way. The Great Quidjabo. It's too bad the word reasonable is not defined exactly. It's always left up to judgment. I had a professor in law school who once said, "If you see the word reasonable in a statute, run." And what he's getting at is you can't define it. It's as subjective a word as you can get. And so what will happen is, and I've seen this happen, where a statute says you will get awarded reasonable attorney fees. And the trial court will hold a hearing and say, "Here's what I think you get." And they'll award that. And one side will go, "I don't think that's right." And they'll take it up on appeal. And the Court of Appeals will read the record and have to determine whether or not the lower court was reasonable. And I've seen it happen so many times. And you're thinking to yourself, like, wait, let me get it straight. You guys won at trial, but you didn't get enough on attorney fees. So you're up on appeal now, asking someone else. But it's a nightmare. But I've seen it go where the trial court didn't give enough, so. Tornado James, have you ever had to lemon law the same vehicle for two different clients? Sort of. I've told the story before. I told the story on VinWiki a while back. But it wasn't the lemon law because the lemon law wouldn't apply to a used vehicle. And after the first person got it bought back, it'd be used. But I had a client once get their car bought back. And then a few months later, someone called me and goes, "Hey, I have a problem I think you can help me with." I go, what's that? She goes, I bought a used vehicle, and she describes it. I go, but I don't handle used cars. And she said, yeah, but you've represented this car before. And it was a truck. And I said, oh, and she goes, yeah. She goes, and I talked to the previous owner who said, yeah, I think I bought back because it's a lemon, but that was never disclosed to me. And it turns out that there was a problem there. And I actually took the case, called up my friend at the manufacturer and said, you're buying it back again. And they did. And I got paid fees twice on that vehicle. It's not Me 07. That's why you always get the previous owner's name from the dealership. You should probably see it if you're buying a used vehicle at a dealership, because you have to see the old title, and their name and address should be on that title, right? Matthias is in the house. Greetings from Berlin, Germany. Good to see you, my friend. I hope you're well. MH08 Nevada was also reasonable and prudent before Nixon. Oh, boy. Spaghetti Eater. Greetings from Omaha, Nebraska. Dan Boyd, so the dealer is allowed to flip titles. I believe the word you're looking for is skip titles. And in most states, they absolutely are. Because if they had to retitle the vehicle in their own name and wait for the state to get back to them, they'd have inventory tied up. And so most of the titles that I've seen, especially the ones in Michigan, say right on them who the owner is. There's a place down below for you to sell the vehicle. And then it actually has a thing on it where it'll say assignment by dealer. And the dealers get to handle the titles differently for that reason. Mark Miller, no, I never did get Matthias's care package, and I apologize. Arts 4014, yeah, they'll know reasonable when they see it. Matthias says he's trying to get the money back for the not delivered t-shirt. The question is, did it get out of Germany? If so, did it make it to America? I suspect it got here and then, shall we say, mishandled by our postal service here. Waterfire Lord Man, I have a question for you. That's a statement. Tornado James, can you describe a case you lost on just a technicality? Sorry, I don't remember ever losing a case of technicality. Excuse me, I swallowed wrong. Hang on. The creativist, I recently discovered my license was suspended because of a parking ticket in St. Clair Shores in 1997. I thought there was a statute of limitations on that stuff. I don't know. It depends on when they put it in the system, because the statute of limitations is for prosecution. And if they prosecuted you in absentia, which they may have done, they may have defaulted you, then it becomes a conviction. You know what I'm saying? And so the statute of limitations would apply to them being able to come after you now and say, are you guilty or not? But the damage may have been done back in 97. Boomer 6129, if you ask a dealership of a car you are interested in was a buyback due to a lemon law buyback, do they have to legally tell you? If you ask them and they lied to you, you can go after them for misrepresentation or fraud. Some states it's required they disclose it. Some states it's not. The reason I got the manufacturer to buy that vehicle back a second time was that I knew for a fact that in Michigan, that particular manufacturer sold lemon law buyback vehicles at a closed dealer auction, and they required the dealers to pass the information along to the buyers that this vehicle was a lemon law buyback, and it comes with an extended warranty covering the defects that it was bought back for. And so when the second client bought it, she was not given those disclosures and she could prove it. Slam dunk. Absolute slam dunk. It's like giving Shaquille O'Neal 20 minutes on a ladder and saying all you got to do is score one bucket with no defenders once and a ladder. Oh. JJ, is there a tariff on a t-shirt? That's the problem. Any goods or products coming into America that is identified as goods or products, and there's always that stuff happening. That's one of the reasons I can't sell books in Canada, because I have to say what's in this package. It's a book. What's it cost? And the shipping is expensive, and it becomes a whole different thing. The creativist, I knew about the ticket but refused to pay it. Well, now it's come back to haunt you. And see, that's the thing, is that refusing to pay it means they just defaulted you. And so right now on your record is an unpaid ticket from 1997. And until you pay it, it's going to follow you around like a curse. Andrew Kruchowski, have you ever been to a Turkish jail? Lately? I like gladiator movies. Is that enough? Dan Boyd, didn't Dodge or Plymouth have a paint color called Lemon Twist? Probably. They had all those bright colors in the late 60s, early 70s. Robert Torres says the statute of limitations does not run out. It takes effect when time runs out. But people often say that they're going to run it out, and they're referring to the fact that there is a time period that is running. And when the time period runs out, then something happens. So Dan Boyd, did the undisclosing dealer face any sanctions? I believe they did. I believe they're the ones who ate it. Sometimes I listen to myself says, don't ask Shaq to hit a free throw. Yeah, that's why I said give him a ladder in 20 minutes. The creativist. I'm so confused. They bust my idea and knowledge of the statute. So the statute of limitations. Okay, let's suppose there's a statute of limitations that says the statute of limitations on this crime is 6 years. Okay, means you must be charged with it within 6 years, and if not, the statute runs, and then it becomes that becomes a bar to the action. And the main place that I see them is in civil actions. And there are some things that you must bring an action for within a certain time period, and you are bringing it within the statute of limitations, which is one of the reasons that people will say that the statute of limitations runs, but whatever. Old Paint says we could talk about the turbo encabulator for a while. I have to tell you a little story I've never told before, I don't think. And that is that I did the April Fool's video about the turbo encabulator, the legal aspects of 2 years ago now. And I put some work into that. I actually wrote out a script and put on a suit and a tie and everything. And I put the video up, and it didn't do terribly well, but April Fool's videos don't always do well anyways. And the creativist says, thanks for the reply. I have to look more, maybe get a lawyer. Or just pay the ticket. How bad could it be? And I had a woman, which I think is appropriate for me to say that. I had a woman send me an email that's about this long, explaining to me about how unfunny that video was, how she didn't get it, and she's reasonably certain that nobody thought it was funny, and no one watches your videos to see you do something stupid like that. Would you please never do anything like that again? I'm thinking to myself, how many turbo encabulator videos do you think I'm going to make? Oh, boy. The creativist, I'm not paying it. I'll move to Germany first. How much do you know? Like, you should at least look it up. It's like $12, but although it's probably got late fees and double secret probation fees. And Bill, message from Karen. Jason, I love the Turbo and Calculator video. Thank you. But the point is, who goes that far out of their way to tell somebody they didn't enjoy something? You know, I didn't put a gun to her head and say, you have to watch this video. Oh, boy. Steve BM, just like a judgment where you have to refile every 3 to 5 years. Some places it's 10 years. And so, I mean, they can follow you around for a long time. Art S, is for that reason alone, you should make another Turbo and Calculator video. Oh, S404. Do you or could you do California law? No. I went to law school in California, but never took the California bar. If I'd taken it back then, I possibly could have passed it, but I wasn't planning on practicing law out there, so I didn't bother. Michelle Price, she turned me into a newt, but I got better. Yeah, Belio, it's statute of limitations. Kramer. Dougie, dude, you have trouble with bark beetles killing your oak trees. I'm not familiar with the bark beetles. I know, of course, about the emerald ash borer, which went around this area, swept through about 20 years ago. They're still around, unfortunately. So, yeah, user UF9HR5JM2C. Murder is the one where famously there is no statute of limitations. Uh, you know, good luck trying to prosecute one 80 years later. But, you know, it does happen where they prosecute somebody 10, 20, 30 years later once in a while. The creativist, all felonies are a lifetime. Talking about punishment, statute of limitation. What are we talking about? Belio says that according to the book, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, there is a statute of limitations on murder in Sweden. It wouldn't surprise me, but I suspect it's a long one. It's probably longer than any other ones, you know. The creativist, isn't there no statute of limitations on felonies? Oh, no, no, no. Felonies have got statute of limitation also. Spaghetti eater should be limits. If you got away with it, you deserve to be free, which is an interesting way of looking at it. But of course, what they're really getting at is if you drag your feet prosecuting somebody, it actually sometimes prejudices against the defendant, meaning that the defendant might say, hey, I had alibi witnesses, but 5 years later, I don't know where they are, you know, that kind of thing. Blah, blah, blah. I thought student loans right up there with murder. No exemptions. In a roundabout way, you are correct. Iron Man, are student loans a crime? Depends on who you ask. But they will haunt you much the way a crime would if it didn't have a statute of limitations. Doug Jones's Motorola flip phone was influenced by a Star Trek communicator. I loved my StarTAC. I had a StarTAC that I wish I still had it. It was such a cool little thing. And I realized it didn't do a thousandth of the stuff that my smartphone does. It was still cool though. This is cool. Like a movie star. Yeah, Matthias says in Germany they had a defendant for murder in a concentration camp situation who was 101 years old. And I've heard of a few of those over the last few years. Old paint, do student loans get discharged upon death? I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people have dealt with that issue. I wouldn't be surprised if they become part of the estate. Opus Cat, have you been to? I couldn't pronounce it. I've never been there. If I'd been there, I could probably pronounce it. Where is it, or is it a mythical place? Dan Boyd, death or disability are your only avenues out from under your student loans. Can you imagine? Fake your own death to get away from your student loans. Oh, Isaac Bob York says there was a statute of limitation in Sweden when that book was written. It was changed in 2010, so now there is no statute so long as the murderer is over 21. Interesting. And okay, it makes sense. Robert Torre, I did 7 years of financial prison sentence for dissolving my first marriage. Jay Klein, my StarTAC was my favorite flip phone. I mean, don't get me wrong. I also liked my BlackBerry that had the actual keys, a little keyboard on it. But the StarTAC was just so cool. From a purely industrial design standpoint, the StarTAC was one of the most beautiful consumer devices ever made. Tornado James says we just went under a winter weather advisory with 1 to 3 inches and winds of 40 to 45, with wind chills 5 to 15 below. I've got a little weather bug in the corner of my screen that pops up with all kinds of bad news like that. It isn't showing yet, but maybe it will. The Creatives was stationed in Germany. Loved that country. I've never been to Germany. Been to Switzerland and France, but not Germany yet. Mark Miller says the legal aspect of student loans became necessary due to doctors filing for bankruptcy. I don't know how true that is, but I know that I've heard that many times, that if you were allowed to declare bankruptcy and get rid of student loans, in a traditional sense, every single person who just graduated graduate school, that's law school, medical school, or grad school, is so upside down they immediately qualify. So they had to create something to prevent that from happening. Blah, blah, blah. I love my flip phone because it fit in my pocket. Mark Miller, 52F, here in Aurora, Colorado. I'm not actually talking about a program called WeatherBug. I'm talking about there's a little symbol over in the bottom left-hand corner of my screen. I'm not even sure. I'm assuming it's Microsoft or something, but we'll see. I'll go to my weather app. I'm not getting any hate mail yet from the weather people, but that could change. Matthias says if we come to Berlin, the beer is on him. And in Wolfsburg, they've got a nice car museum. I'm guessing filled with German cars. MHOA says there is an Aurora in South Dakota. The Creatives points out that you could not butt dial a StarTAC. I mean, you probably could if you forgot to fold it back up. Sometimes I listen to myself. You run and you run to catch up with the sun, but it's sinking. Thanks for your time. The 2 hours go by fast. Wow. I didn't even realize that. Thank you. SKS Hugo, Motorola radio phones were fun. I love Motorola phones. I had a whole bunch of them. Kazooie Tricia doesn't have snow in Lower Scotland. I was watching a movie called About Time the other day, and there's an exchange where a woman said she would disrobe for her husband if he would her fiance, if he would agree to answer some questions. And at one point, she said, "And where will we go on vacation, our honeymoon?" And he goes, "Scotland." And she goes, "I'm not taking off my pants for Scotland," which is even funnier out of context, but it wouldn't make any sense. Dan Boyd says the Gullwing is the greatest German car possibly. Yes, the Gullwing Mercedes is gorgeous. What a brilliant design. Oh, Mark Miller reminds us of that story about the bad gas being delivered to the gas stations, and they've now had 50 gas stations reported with bad gas, which means a lot more people got it than thought. And they've been following it very closely in the local media there, but it's a crazy situation. I've heard of bad gas at one station before, never at a 50 at the same time. Free the Birds says they've already announced a 2-hour delay in school for Tuesday morning because Monday's a holiday, I'm guessing. And it has to do with also nothing to do with people staying up late to watch a football game. Oh boy. Chris Stope says, I have a friend who is 63 in her second year of law school. Very cool. Steve BM says it sounds like it was a bad gas truckload, but one truckload wouldn't be enough to hit 50 gas stations. You have to be more. Yeah, Jay Klein says 50 stations would be multiple trucks. And JB2 is checking in from Amherst, Ohio, the sandstone capital of the world, the sandstone capital. There's a sandstone quarries in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, a lot of buildings made out of locally quarried sandstone. But sandstone's cool. Mark Miller says, so at 57, I can still take my LSAT, etc. Sure, if you wanted to. Dan Boyd, I swear everyone here is from Ohio. There are a lot of Ohioans in the house. Tornado James, if you had the ability to and cost was not a factor, what's one car you'd bring back for public sale? You mean other people get to buy it too? It's hard to say. I like the 69 Dodge Charger, but I have an emotional attachment. Steve is in Moraine, Ohio. So is JJ. The creativist, Ohio is the ticket capital. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Go slow if you're driving through Ohio with Michigan plates. It would behoove you. It's not me 07. Hoovy crashed his Gullwing after trying to get it out of his living room last week. Which is funny. That sentence right there makes no sense to some people and makes complete sense to others. Oh, Boomer, the 71 Javelin. A little love for the AMC in the house. Steve G, LSAT, law school admission test. Luna Minar says, does anyone else here come from Delaware? Bealey, I'd love to have a 71 Duster 340. A friend of mine in high school had one of those. It was remarkably fast and inexpensive. It's kind of a bland looking car, I think, compared to some of the other Mopars. But, you know. Bealey, a Hoovy can't catch a break. Question I have is Mark Miller goes, Della who? Delaware looks like Delaware. And apparently there was a guy whose title was something or other Delaware. And they think it came from somebody of the war. But they're apparently a little vague on that. So, Luna Minar, congrats for pronouncing my name correctly in the first try. It'll never happen again. Oh. Echo Tracks, Delaware, Ohio. Sure, why not? Lurch, Wisconsin in the house. I'm like a week or so behind. Sent you a story about a local school district. Are we talking about the social media posts? I mentioned that earlier in this video. I'm probably going to do that story later on this week. Belio, the 340 and the 440 dusters. Could you get a duster with a 440 in it? I mean, talk about a big engine in a small car. Of course, you could get a Hemi and a Dart, so why not? Art Bell's Ghost. Any chance they can sue the oil companies? Well, you'd sue the dealership, or not dealership, the gas station. The gas station can sue the supplier, and it goes up like that. I'm aware of this. I'm just hoping Steve will mention that. Will mention what? Hold on. I got to go back here. I don't see the previous post. My scroll doesn't keep up sometimes. Yeah, the creativist, I sent you a YouTube video story a couple weeks ago. I don't watch a lot of videos of people send me links. I haven't got time. I literally get dozens and dozens and dozens of video links sent to me by people, and I don't watch them. I've had people say you should do a story about this video. I don't do stories about videos. I do videos about stories. So Luna Minar, I thought you just sue everyone and go with whichever one sticks. It's the old sue them all, let God sort them out, or sue them all, let the jury sort them out. Well, no, but sometimes you can only sue. So you buy a product and it's defective and you're injured financially. You generally sue the person you bought the product from, which would be the seller of the product. So you're the buyer, they're the seller. Can you go up the chain and sue somebody further up? Well, you're not in privity of contract with the supplier of the fuel to the seller. However, you could claim that you're an intended end user and they should have known that. But each time you go further up the chain, despite the fact that the pockets get deeper, the liability sometimes gets skinnier. So what you want to do is go, you got a rock solid case against the gas station, unless they're teetering. But yeah, you might want to sue the distributor also. But your best bet is against the seller. Steve BM, I bet a lot of people send you links and you can't read the story without subscribing. Are you talking about stuff behind a paywall? I get those all the time. I'm I'm not subscribing to the Paw Observer so I can see an article that somebody thought was fascinating. Despite the fact I'm sure it's fascinating. So Belio, I still can't believe the Roadrunners had Warner Brothers license to meat horns. Not only that, they had the Roadrunner in a symbol that was both on the front headlight cover on the Superbird and then also on the upright for the wing. And if you read at the very, very bottom, it says license from Warner Brothers. And they're very, very specific about that. Tin door tailgater, I'm a busy man. And it's not that I'm so busy that I don't watch videos. It's I haven't got the time. I literally get hundreds of videos sent to me every week. And I'm like, I haven't got time to watch all these videos. So please, if you see a story idea, if you see a video, go find the story someplace and send me that because I can glance at it and go, oh, I know what that's about. I can't glance at a video by looking at the link. So there you go. Anyway, it is past 3:00. We've been here for over 2 hours. The experiment worked, so we'll be able to do this from now on, hopefully. I'll talk to you guys later. And yes, Art S, I'm not subscribed to the Paw Observer. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.